Today I have something different than I normally do. Instead of like normal gameplay where I would go play through a game and record it, this is just a video on how to help, the tips and tricks, things I've learned after playing for a long time on Battlefield 5. So there's a lot that the game shows you, and then there's a lot that I've discovered that the game does not tell you at all just by playing. So I'm going to try to go through some random tips and tricks. Some things might be for complete novices, and then some more tips that more expert level. I'm trying to go through them all in like a 15-20 minute period. Hopefully somebody can learn something. So just to start it off, just so you don't think I'm talking out of my ass here, I got a 3.5 KD and 80% win-loss ratio. So I feel like I'm pretty good at being able to say what works and what doesn't work in this game. Now, obviously, not the best player in the world, uh, but I know how to do pretty well in the game. So some of these tips might not work for everybody, but after playing, these is what I've found to be the best for me, and how I've managed to get that high of a KD and win ratio. So the easiest way here, I'll probably go to, yeah, I guess the practice range would be easier to show this. So the first thing I'm talking about is just going to be the settings I have for sensitivity and whatnot. Now this is going to vary from everybody. Some people are going to think my sensitivity and everything's going to be way too slow. Some people might think that I'm way too high. It's basically, you want to have it set up. Come on, let me skip this. So I'm on Xbox. So the way I always like to have my sensitivity set up is, see, this is how fast I turn. I want it to be where, like, let's see, this tree is an enemy. If I'm over here and I see an enemy pop up, I want to be able to look real fast, but not over aim. So if you struggle like acquire and aim, like you're always way overshooting, you probably have your sensitivity too high. You need to adjust it, or if it takes you way too long to get over there, you need to heighten it up. Now, the way that I've always had it, because when I first started playing this game, I could not fucking shoot to save my life. AI would kick my ass. So I have soldier aim sensitivity on 30% and zoom sensitivity on 40. And I took, this fucked me up. This might be good for some people. I turned that all the way off. It just really fucked me up. Uniform soldier aiming is on, and the coefficient. I've never messed with this, but I don't know if that's default or not. I always kept that on 133%, but I would really recommend taking off the aim acceleration off. It just made the aiming way worse. It felt like playing Call of Duty on like max sensitivity. So that's what I got my sensitivities on. But yeah, if you're having trouble, just find your little groove there where you can acquire a target with accuracy really fast, but not overpass them or take too long to get to them. In this game, it's not like Call of Duty. You're probably not going to turn on anybody. So if you're getting shot from the back, you don't really need to worry about being so fast where you can spin on somebody. Because if you got to the point where you fucked up and there's an enemy on your back, you fucked up. You might be able to turn on them still, but you won't want to rely on that. So, second part is, now if you've got your aim down, you need to work on whatever guns you have. Now, I see a lot of people, they fuck up with the guns they're using. So like right now, I believe this gun's called the Sturmgewehr. It's pretty close range. It's an AR, but you can treat it like an SMG. So you want to shoot it. That's no recoil control right there. If I control it, it's not as bad, but as you can see, this is a close range weapon. And this map that we're on is Hamada. It's a big conquest map. See, unless you're in the city here, you wouldn't want to be using. I see way too many people. They would run out into like giant open spaces like this and be engaging targets way over there and just getting absolutely shit on because they can't control the recoil at that range, which is pretty hard to control recoil like that. So you need to learn your range of your weapon. Now, if you have like a sniper or a machine gun, you could probably take that engagement all day and be fine. But like when you have a weapon like this, It's much easier to position yourself in a way where you're like, you know, if you get into an engagement, it's going to be short range. So that's why you need to not try to play with your weapon strength. If it's a close range weapon, stay close range. You wouldn't take a shotgun into an open field, basically. So like right here on this map, if I run around with a Sturmgewehr and I'm in the city like this, I'm really deadly with it. But if you're playing Hamada, you know that while this map doesn't show it, there's a big open field where that ocean would be, and this gun sucks. Complete ass in that whole open field. So, as long as you can stay where your gun strengths are, and you get your aim good, you'll win a lot of your 1v1s, which is the main point, if you're struggling with that. Second thing would be to remember, if you have a good gun, you have good aim, you need to worry about your positioning. I see a lot of people, they'll get in engagements, and the mistake that they make is that they leave themselves open for a 360-degree field. So what I mean by this is you want to try to limit the degrees you can get hit by. So, for instance, let's say I'm down here and I'm running up and I see an enemy right here. A lot of people would just run up here, bam, 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 start shooting. All of a sudden they get killed from the side. Now what could you have done better? That'd be where you want to take cover into effect. I like to always keep something to my side if I possibly can. So instead of running all the way up here and getting killed from somebody I can't even see, now you can still obviously get hit from the back, but if I'm down here and I'm crouched and I take this fight, anybody over there is not going to see me. I see people make that mistake a lot. And you'd be amazed how many like 1v4s, 1v3s I've pulled off just by like taking an engagement, killing the guy, peeking up, and then killing the second guy. Just something tiny like that can improve your gameplay so much. So, now if you remember your positioning, keeping your gun strengths, so you're keeping it in the range that it's meant for, and you get your aim down, you're already going to be better than 80% of the people who play this game. Because the average KD is not even like a 1.2, I don't think. So if you do better than that, you're already above average. A side note, another thing you want to try to do, I always see a lot of people do this, especially in long range fights. Don't sit still when you're in a gunfight. You need to learn to kind of keep it moving a little bit. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say that pillar right here is an enemy. A lot of people, especially I see it with when they're engaging snipers, for some reason they'll get in a gunfight and they'll just stand still. I think it's they're trying to maximize their accuracy, but you would be amazed how many people start missing if you strafe left and right. Now, I don't have any of the speed attachments on this gun, so it's going to be a lot slower than normal, but how much you get people to miss when you go left and right. I just go about a couple feet to the left, a couple feet to the right, and as I'm doing it, I just get used to, after a lot of practice, I get used to being able to shoot and strafe at the same time, and it's saved me so many times. So, now bringing it, if you remember all those gunfight tips, that should improve your gameplay a lot. So now going to the main game mode in this game, that still has a population, is Conquest. So there's a couple tips and tricks I've learned about Conquest is there's some flags, and you'll figure this out as you play along. Some flags on the map are more important than others. And what I mean by that is they might have a certain spawn on it or a better location. So for instance, on Hamada right here, there would normally way over here be the G flag. Somewhere about right here would be the F flag. But you would always want to take the G flag over here first. And why would that be? Is because the G flag actually has a runway on it, and the runway counts as a bomber spawn. So by securing that flag, you can get air superiority for your team. So just doing something like that and choosing which flag you go to could help your whole team break an evenly matched game. Because I know I've had gameplays on this map where I couldn't get G, and I just spent the whole game in this giant open map just getting shit on by planes. That sucks. So if you can take an important flag like that, it's definitely nice. At the same time, there's other flags like D on I can't remember what, Wake Island maybe, has a bunch of bunkers. and anti-tank guns on it, so it's in the middle of the map. It's a great spawn point. You'll figure out as you play what flags you need to hold. Some of them are, the more flags you have, the better it is. But if you can only hold a couple flags, you should figure out which ones are the priority and go by then. There's another, like, Iwo Jima has a D flag that has a big repair station, ammo crate, a medic crate, a defensive cave, and 2 AA guns on it. Or anti-air guns. So that's a great spawn to get in that. And once you figure that out, it's better. Another tip with Conquest that the game never tells you, or I've never seen, is let's pretend that flag, Conquest flag. Normally, if you'd look on the mini-map, you would see a gray box that I would be in right now, and if you're anywhere in that gray box, you would start capturing the flag, as long as there was no enemies on the flag. Something that the game has never told me, I figured out this on my own, was that if you stand right next to the flagpole, for some reason you actually capture the flag faster. I guess that makes sense if you think about it. But I never knew that until playing for probably like 150 hours. I guess it makes sense, because if you're all the way out here and the flag's all the way over there, you're going to capture it slower. I'm looking through my notes real fast, I think. Oh, okay, yeah. One of the last things I see on here is another thing of movement. So, I see a lot of times where everybody just runs with path of least resistance. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're trying to get somewhere, you just go. Well, a lot of people, they'll just run straight to the flag. They don't look for positioning, which was an important point we covered earlier. Because when you just run right to it, you can't look at anything. You're going to get hit from the sides or anything. But if you would, for instance, try to be more careful and maybe approach this from like a different spot where nobody's watching, you'd be amazed how you could take like a path, simple looking path like this, and how often you'll catch somebody like maybe head glitching on this wall or something with their pants down. Just something easy like flanking like that. Like, I've had games where I've, no joke, been on Aerodrome, for instance. If anybody's played that, knows what I'm talking about. C flag is in the middle of the map, and it's a bitch to break into if the enemy has it. It's a giant bunker. It's very easily defendable. I've seen teams sit there and go back and forth trying to take that flag for 400 or 500 tickets, and maybe they switch places of ownership 2 or 3 times, but nobody ever gets it. Sometimes it's easier just to not take that flag. I've had a lot of games where, for instance, maybe everybody's fighting over this flag, and I would just go over here to the next flag where F would be and start taking it behind it. And I might die for my actions there, but it pulls people off the front line because everybody just gets stuck in this, I'd call it the meat grinder tunnel. Just try not to get tunnel vision. If you see your whole team dying over and over, and you're trying to keep taking this objective and you're just dying over and over, that obviously means that a pretty significant part of their team's on that flag, which also means that there's like 4 or 5 other flags that probably don't have that many people on them. So it's pretty important to try to sneak around. Maybe you get on one of their flags in the back and managed to cap it with no resistance. I've done that a lot, and then they had to send a couple people after me, and as I died, because I didn't manage to win like a 1v4, I managed to take a couple people off the front line of the flag that we were struggling to take, and my team took it, and then we took a stalemate game, or a game that we were slightly losing, and actually managed to turn it around just because of a little smart flanking play like that. But these are just a couple tips and tricks. If I think of another... Oh, before I forget, one more thing with movement. A lot of people don't realize this. So if I sprint from the bottom of these stairs to the top here, so I'm pretty fast. I figured this out after a while. You can crouch, and you can tell you're crouched because right by your ammo indicator at the bottom right, you can see that little guy pop up when I'm crouched. You can actually sprint while crouched, and you still go at a pretty good pace. And it obviously, since you're crouched, it lowers your hitbox because your head's down like a foot. Makes it a little bit harder to hit you. Obviously, I wouldn't crouch in gunfights because it makes you so much slower going side to side. But if you're just running across an open field, I find it pretty beneficial to actually crouch a lot. It makes it harder to get hit, especially if you're full sprinting. But yeah, those are just most of the tips and tricks I could randomly think of. If I think of any more, I'll make another video about this. So hopefully, any of this was helpful. Like I said, some of the tips are pretty obvious, like finding the right sensitivity and whatnot. But I see some people where they barely touch the stick and they do like a 360. I don't see how they play like that. But yeah, hopefully at least one of these tips is helpful. Next little series of this I'm gonna try to go over all 4 of the main infantry classes, say what guns are best, show my classes on there, and if anybody's struggling with the class selection of what guns they want to use, I'll go over that. So that's the end of this video. Hopefully it helps.